Welcome to Inside the Indians, your source for insider information on the Tribe. Stay with us as we bring you the latest about the players, managers, and people behind the scenes at Victory Field. Now here's your host, the longtime broadcast voice of the Indians, Howard Kellman.
Hi everybody, I'm Howard Kellman and welcome to Inside the Indians. On today's show, we'll speak with the pitching coach of the Indianapolis Indians and former Major League pitcher, Dan Meyer. We'll be back with Dan. This is Inside the Indians. Dan Meyer, the Indianapolis Indians pitching coach, is our guest on Inside the Indians. Dan, we've had you here a few weeks. How are you finding Indianapolis and being our pitching coach?
I'm enjoying it. The people at Ballpark have been great. The fans have been great. The energy's been great. And we've had a good team. So it's been a lot of fun.
And we'll get to the team in just a moment. But before we do, let's talk about a little bit about your playing days and your pitching days. And you did have one really good year in the major leagues with the Florida Marlins in 2009. Tell us about that.
Just kind of combination of was able to just kind of find everything working at one time. And I was able to, have some really good relationships and meet some lifelong friends. And, honestly, and that eventually led me to Indy. I guess 2 years later, I was pitched here for the end of my career. But, I enjoyed it then and I enjoy it now. And I'm excited to be back.
What was it like being in the American League? You were with Oakland as opposed to the National League?
A lot farther from home, being an East Coast person, being raised in New Jersey and, going to school at James Madison in Virginia. It was a lot farther from home, a little different living that took some time to get used to. But on the baseball field, a little different game then, but still a lot of home runs. So I just had to adjust.
It doesn't affect you as much as a relief pitcher, but what are your thoughts on the designated hitter now being universal and now being in the National League and in our games too?
Yeah, I see both sides of the argument. So to me, I don't feel strongly either way. I understand not wanting pitchers to get hurt, and that does happen, and a little more strategy involved though with the double switches. So it kind of goes both ways.
A starting pitcher would get a breather in the National League when the pitcher would come up. A little breather, a little more strategy, and that takes that away.
Yeah, they always said you face 8.5 hitters in the National League, right? Because that eighth hitter, you can always kind of work around and get. If you have 2 outs and the 8-hole hitter and the nut pitcher on deck, you can always find your way to work around it, right? So there was ways to navigate through the lineup better than it maybe in the American League. But I think now the game is it's not a bad thing to make the pitchers have some pressure more and not make it so easy.
Take us back to when you signed a contract to play professional baseball. You grew up outside of Philadelphia in South Jersey. Tell us about the experience.
The typical childhood, just playing Little League and playing in high school was a little different. We didn't have our travel was American Legion. The area set you up with a team and you played with guys in your area, and that was our travel ball. But was able to do that. Just got better and ended up playing at James Madison and getting drafted by the Braves and just kind of kept rolling with it. And when my career was over, I decided I didn't want to, put any real clothes on yet. So I kept a baseball uniform and, stayed in this game.
Yeah, you've been a coach in the minor leagues. You also, before we get to that, last year you ended up managing.
Yeah.
And were named manager of the year. Tell us the story behind that.
They just, some things that happened, and the team had asked me if the players asked me if I would manage because I was a pitching coach. Had talked to the Braves about it, and I guess we were there was hesitancy on both sides. I'd never done it, and at the AA level, we some serious baseball. So we were able to come to consensus. Had a lot of help from Doug Manzolino, and was able to pick a lot of brains from some other people, and was able to make it through. And we had a good team. Those kids won, we won it all. And I think the only reason I got it, the manager of the year, is because we won it. I had nothing to do with it, but those guys could swing it. We pitched well and, won the championship, and it was a lot of fun, that team. So I was just happy to be a small part of it.
Most managers are not former pitchers. What was it like managing? How'd you find the experience?
A lot of work. A completely different side of it as far as managing, personalities on the position player side, workloads, doing advanced scouting stuff as far as, next day starter and lineups and, looking at trends and stuff like that. So doing that in the pitching side, I found it to be an awful lot, but I'd like the managing side. It just kind of took me back to, the non-pitching thinking. I had to think about the whole game in perspective. So it definitely was a change in, my thought process.
And then you signed on with the Pirates this year. You're up to AAA with the Indianapolis Indians. Tell us about signing a contract and coming to the Pirates organization.
Yeah, I just, I just wanted to get closer to my family and my wife and kids. And, that was important for me. And being over here with the Pirates, there's some places that are a lot closer to the Northeast where I live in Connecticut. And even in Indy, I'm closer than I was last year in Mississippi. And travel in Indy, we go to Charlotte, we go to Atlanta. I can fly home a lot easier for me. And it's just, that means a lot more to me. So to be over here with the Pirates with a lot of familiar faces that I know, I've been across the dugout with some of these guys and, know how well, they can do a job. So I'm excited to be over here and, and it worked out great for me overall.
What is it like working with AAA pitchers as opposed to working in the lower minor leagues, which you've done?
Sure. I mean, at this level, it's more fine tuning, helping guys get over the edge, maybe to get back to the big leagues or get maybe that last little step to get them to the big leagues. Could be something as small as something mechanical, or maybe just something as simple as first pitch strikes. But sometimes the longer you play, you kind of lose sight of the little things. And I think that's, at this level, that's the difference, the separator for me.
We'll have more with Dan Meyer, the Indianapolis pitching coach. This is Inside the Indians. We continue with Dan Meyer, the Indianapolis Indians pitching coach. Dan, the game has changed really a lot in the last 5 years with all these strikeouts and guys throwing so much harder than they did years ago. Has that affected your approach as a pitching coach?
I think in a way it has to. And I don't think if I'm not developing as a pitching coach and trying to follow the game, because that's where we're at, I think I'm doing a disservice to, my job in the industry. So for me, it's having to learn to adjust. Baseball is a living organism. It's changed throughout the last 60 years. So, how can we make it, the best of what we, with what is the situation for now. And I think, guys throwing hard, it's great. Just learning how they use it. And then the off speed comes just as important. The harder guys throw, the more you have to respect the fastball, which means, maybe the changeup comes into play more like the slider. It looks a little bit more like a fastball. So things like that, pitch selection and how you use it change. But, it's just a little bit different style of game we played, before.
I don't know if you watched the Pirates game this past Sunday. David Bednar came in, and in the ninth inning, the Cubs had second and third, one out. Fastball was sitting about 97 miles an hour, and he threw three straight fastballs, struck out a batter, couldn't catch up to it. Another batter, now with two outs, three straight fastballs again. He couldn't catch up to it. I guess there was no need to use the breaking stuff in that situation.
No, absolutely. I mean, 20 years ago, wasn't that as many guys throwing hard, but we were so in love with the curveball, right? Because that was the way to get strikeouts. Well, guys like David Bednar, their out pitch, their best pitch at times is their fastball. It's 95, 98 with movement. It's got ride to it. I mean, sometimes, people give it a bad stereotype because fastball heavy up in the zone, but we did the same thing 20 years ago, just not as much. And if that's his out pitch, throw it, right? And then, I did see it. That was great. I mean, he was just up in the zone. He pitched to his strength, and he was basically telling the hitters, here's my best pitch. If you hit it, you win. And he won. So I think that's what we tell these guys. In the crunch time, you go to your best stuff, use your best strength, and compete from there. So it was a great.
Would there have been anything wrong if he had thrown a breaking ball when he got two strikes? Because the hitter is leaking and, anticipating another fastball, he's going to be frozen by a breaking ball.
Yeah, I mean, maybe not. I mean, maybe the slow bat, he would have ran into it, right? Because it's 2 strikes, maybe he's swinging anyway, trying to protect. That breaking ball might give him a little more time to put the ball in play. That could have changed the game right there. We got on third. So, is what's Bednar's best pitch? What's his strength? To me, it's his fastball. So if they're not hitting it, why am I going to get away with it? Keep it simple.
Exactly. Now, bullpens these days, guys are throwing hard. Many of them do lack consistent control. So there's a way I would think that things have changed for you, maybe working more on control with pitchers who years ago had better control and didn't throw as hard.
Yeah, I think in a way, it's the old control versus command argument. I mean, you can command it to the corners, or can you control the baseball in the zone, right? So if guys are throwing harder, the harder it is to command it. So if we can control those pitches in the zone, get ahead with strike one, and force them to hit our strengths, I think that's, the name of the game, and try and do it as few pitches as possible, really.
What are your thoughts on the Indianapolis Indians pitching staff?
I think we have a lot of talent. I'm excited to work with these guys. It's a great group of guys as far as coachability, personality. They work hard. They practice hard before. So, and I've seen the talent that, we have, and it's exciting to see on the field.
You have a lot of young guys, which is good, I think, and that's good for the organization. The position players are young too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that's a sign of, for the people in Pittsburgh, really. I mean, the future is bright. I saw a lot of similarities and, when I was with the Braves 3-4 years ago, when they had all these young arms and these young prospects, in the minor leagues like Acuna and Austin Riley. So they won the World Series with these guys. And I don't think, I do think the Pirates can easily do that. I don't think that's anything different than, where the Braves were. So I think it's something that they should be excited about because some definitely talent out there.
Dan, is there a difference in your approach when you're working with the starting pitcher as opposed to a relief pitcher?
Not necessarily maybe role. I might change my approach depending on the guy's personality. What's the best way to get to him? Whether it's visually, do I got to get on him? Do I got to, be a little softer on him? To me, I mean, there are minor intricacies for the guy's role in a way, but I think it's more personality based for me.
How much of pitching is mechanics? How much of pitching is the mental approach?
I mean, that's a tough question. It depends what, I mean, I couldn't tell you. They're both very important, right? I mean, in different ways. You see guys with the best mechanics in the world that can't pitch in the big leagues because it's mental, right? And you see some of the guys with the best mental toughness in the world, but struggle mechanically. So I think it's a combination of both. It's tough to have one and not the other, and to be consistently compete and pitch at a high level for sure.
Is part of your job as a pitching coach to instill confidence in the pitchers?
I think absolutely. I think that's a huge part of, the mental side of it, them believing they can do it, because can you get beat up a little bit, knocked on the ground in front of, 20, 30,000 people or on TV, and then the very next night come out and face the same guys and get them out, right? You have to believe you're the best.
Well said. We'll have more with Dan Meyer, the Indianapolis Indians pitching coach. This is Inside the Indians. Indians pitching coach who's our guest on Inside the Indians. Dan, let's talk about Roansy Contreras for just a moment. He is one of the top prospects in baseball and perhaps the Pirates' top pitching prospects, certainly one of them. Give us your thoughts on him.
He's a special talent. Just to have the abilities that he has at such a young age, to feel, to be able to mix, and then you add that all together with plus slider and a really good breaking ball, the developing changeup, and then you sprinkle in a little 95 to 98, 99 miles an hour with, honestly, for a guy with all that stuff with pretty good command, it's a special thing to witness. And the sky's the limit for a guy like that. It really is.
With the emphasis on velocity, guys often are working on trying to improve their velocity. How does somebody do that?
Well, I mean, there's different ways, whether it be, plyo balls or some shoulder, maintenance exercise stuff, or whether it be long toss, we can do that, and pull downs, to whether mechanical changes really, or how you grip the baseball. There's so many different ways to, tinker with stuff that, depending on the guy, it could be different for each, I guess.
Yes, each man has a different approach.
Sure.
But we do have some pitchers who are not necessarily real hard throwers, and they have to change speeds. You think of it as old school baseball.
Sure.
And it's good to see that too.
I mean, it still works. You just have to, it's no different. The harder you throw, the more mistakes you can get away with, right? It's just natural. So these guys command the baseball. They're not going to blow you away, but they will get strikeouts with their fastball because of their off speed so well, and the way they use it and move the ball around. And being left-handed, we have some guys that can do it, and you always have jobs, right? So it's a special thing to see, because it's, you could call that the true art of pitching from 20, 30 years ago. And to be able to still do it in an industry that's changing it's fun to watch. It's a different style of pitching that's fun to watch.
Let's go back a couple of weeks when the team was in St. Paul that Wednesday. Chase DeYoung went 7 innings and 2 relief pitchers. They combined on a 9-inning no-hitter. Take us back to that day. It was very special.
Yeah, it was just fun to watch. I say that, but, Chase just went out from the beginning, executed the plan that, we wanted to for their team, and they have a pretty good hitting team. We saw that, the next day or two, and, they put a ton of runs against us. So for Chase to go out, it was cold at any moment, he could have just not wanted to do it, or, given in, but, kept to his plan, went 7 great innings, and, Bryce and De Los Santos, Thierry came out and just committed to just pounding the zone and executing and getting, quick outs. And it just worked out great. It was just fun to be a part of. I mean, just to watch those guys do it, the excitement, those guys celebrate was cool.
Really neat. It was the 15th no-hitter in Indianapolis Indians history. You know what else was so special? It happened in St. Paul. Chase DeYoung, as you said, went 7 innings. He threw 80 pitches. Meanwhile, that afternoon in Minneapolis, the Twin Cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul, in Minneapolis, Clayton Kershaw goes 7 perfect innings. Like Chase, he went 7 innings, and he also threw 80 pitches, and he also was removed from the game. So I think later in the year, both those guys in the state of Minnesota might have gotten an opportunity to go all 9.
No, for sure. The weather was better, and it wasn't, the shortened spring training. It's definitely possible.
Any particular key or keys when you look at this Indianapolis Indians pitching staff to have a good season?
I think mainly it's just trying to get ahead. Let's try to limit, walks. I think that kind of goes anywhere. Getting strike one and, just kind of committing to our best stuff, right? Being smart about it and just getting strike one and trying to have them hit our strengths and not pitch into their weakness.
Somebody put it, Jeff Branson, who was the Indianapolis Indians hitting coach and the Pirates hitting coach, said to me one day about getting ahead. He said, if the pitcher gets ahead of you 0-2, you better take whatever's served. But if you're ahead 2-0, you can order off the menu. That shows you the emphasis on getting ahead of the hitters.
No, absolutely. You can get in rhythm. You get strike one, just changes the feel of the game. Guys, hitters are a little more on the defensive. And then you can use that to your advantage for sure.
Yeah, it really means a great deal. And you mentioned strike one. I think the most important pitch is your next pitch, because the difference between a hitter and a pitcher, if a hitter strikes out or a hitter gets upset with an umpire, he's got time to cool off. He walks into the dugout, he walks onto the field. But if a pitcher gets upset and you can't afford to do that, he's got to make his next pitch immediately.
Yeah, you got to have a short memory. That goes with anything, whether it's starting or relieving. I mean, that's kind of the essence of baseball. Like, you got to have a short memory and forget about whatever happened, or, you're not going to be able to make it.
And if you don't have that short memory and you let things bother you, that's how the opposition gets big innings.
No, for sure.
Tell us about your work with Miguel Perez, the Indianapolis Indians manager.
No, Miggy's great. Being a former catcher and having him here when I played here at the end of my career, having the relationship with him and being, we've been on the same page as far as, pitchers and how we wanted to use them. And he's been fun to work with. So it's been a great staff overall, to be honest with you.
It can be different for you working with a former catcher as opposed to if your manager's a former infielder.
Yeah, or a former pitcher, right? No, I'm just kidding. But, it's, Miggy does a great job. He understands the game. It's kind of nice to just sit back and watch. I mean, I'm learning from, in other ways too. So.
Does Brady Conlon help you at all?
Oh, sure. I mean, I think everybody in our staff, brings a valuable piece of, experience. And, Brady does a good job with Munson, our hitting coach. And, I feel like they work 24 hours a day. And, the stuff that they do really I think they show at times.
Well, Dan, we want to thank you very much. All the best to you and the guys on the road trip. We'll look forward to seeing you back in Indianapolis soon.
All right. Appreciate it, guys. Thank you for having me.
Okay, that's Dan Meyer, and we'll be back. This is Inside the Indians. Thanks to our guest, Dan Meyer, the Indianapolis Indians pitching coach. We'll see you next week on Inside the Indians.